Welcome to Quantum Possibilities. We're grateful for your presence as we seek to create wholeness for ourselves and our fractured world. I'm Penelope Case.
I'm Hope O'Brien.
And I'm Donnie O'Brien. It is very hard to start using they, them pronouns, but once you train yourself, it never goes away.
I can believe that.
It was hard for me to work on it because I have a lot of the they, them friends. And once you get it, you just get it and it just flows. But it is hard to teach yourself.
It's just habit, right? Yeah. Cellular memory.
Exactly. Because in the English language, it doesn't really make sense to our brains because of how we learned grammar. But I always think it's a pity that that there are quite a few languages that don't have pronouns. They just have like person. Like gendered pronouns, and I think I'm like, man, why can't we have that and make things so much easier?
Yeah, and a lot of times in those languages, it's the noun that's the gender.
Yeah, that too. It is very, very interesting.
Yeah, that's true in German.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah. How interesting.
It is a really hard thing to talk about because it is fairly new. What it is definitely not new at all. It's
the recognition of it to this level is new.
Yeah, like actually talking about it is completely new within like the last 10 years. And people are like, well, why are there so many like gay people now? There didn't used to be. And it's like, no, there always were. It's just that they got killed for talking about it. It's not new, but talking about it is very new, and we need to approach it with, I guess, a lot of people approach it with like whatever biases they got as they, grew up or
cultural
whatever.
Bias.
Yeah. But I guess the best thing we could do is approach it with the most open minds and hearts that we can, Questioning is also a very important part of all of it. So much so that there's like been talk of people who are questioning literally getting its own pride flag. Like, that's how big it is, especially in regard to gender.
Just to be clear, you're talking about people in the mode of questioning trying to figure what's happening for themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, got it.
And I know it can be kind of hard to explain to people who are cisgender, just like comfortable with the gender you are. But like a lot of times, a lot of the queer kids are always questioning. It's just that one just feels a little better than the other, But there are some people that never won't be questioning. And that's just how it is. And you just have to, it's just another extra burden the world has on you. But I honestly feel like more people handle it sort of the way McCall did, which is kind of a shame. Like the anger and the frustration when, like you said, it's just anger with what's happened. And it's also terrifying to like, be questioning and stuff.
Of course it is.
Because like,
I know it's not an easy answer.
Yeah, it's a lot, especially like for all the kids that it's like a new experience for them. It's like if you're the only person in the world, it would be easy. Meaning, like you're good within yourself usually, but it's the fear of how everyone else is going to react and treat you that is the hard part, Sometimes even just the fear. Like some people have awesome families and you can just be like, hey, and they're like, cool, don't care, do whatever you want, you're awesome. And then there are literally some people who get kicked out. Like, and so there's some people who don't know what their reaction's going to be. And in their mind, it could be that they get kicked out. So sometimes people just don't tell their family ever.
Well, may I ask you a question?
Of course.
What was the process like for you when you were in that transition of questioning?
That's a really good question, and it makes me realize I I think one of the biggest difficulties of the whole thing is that you're not figuring it out based off of what you like. You're figuring it out based off of what makes you feel like crap, and you go from there.
Because you don't want to feel like crap.
Yeah,
So you're
right.
you're going toward the
That's
negative in order to negate
to
it,
figure. Yeah. So like all of a
to
sudden,
protect yourself from the
yeah,
negative.
exactly. Like
Hmm.
all of a sudden, you could wake up and be like, man, I feel just a little bit worse when someone calls me she versus if someone calls me they or whatever. Or back when they wasn't even a thing. I don't know. Okay. I'm not gonna answer it based off of my terms because it's like everybody. I could, but like I don't know because there's so many different. I'm just trying to explain like the mental processes, I guess, that go through it.
Sure, yeah. It's important.
So you'll start. I think it all based off of gender or orientation. I should ask.
Either, both.
Okay, I think gender is the one that hurts more because that's when dysphoria comes in, which is the oh my god, I hate this body I'm in. What can I do to fix it? You know,
Right.
um, which is a really heavy conversation, but I think once it really sort of like before puberty, kids are just like kids. That's just like a child. Boom. They do whatever the heck they want. They can like I don't know, girls playing baseball, boys playing with dolls. No one cares. Do whatever you want. And then once puberty hits, you start getting expectations upon you. Like, don't sit like that. Sit like a lady. Stuff like that. And then some kids are like, okay, I'll sit like a lady, and then that works. But then there are some that just ignites a fire in you. It's like, don't call me a lady, and you don't know where it comes from. You're just like, oh my god, I hated that.
So for you, was it a gradual process or was it something that triggered?
Uh, it's something that's always there usually.
I guess I meant, so sorry for the phone ringing.
You're good.
I guess I meant, did you, I mean, you spoke early, you formed, I mean, everything happened so early for you.
Yeah.
And all you can really do is talk about your story. So I want to know, were you questioning at a young age? Because I dressed you like a little girl, put you in dresses, hair and pigtails. You did gymnastics and
No, yeah.
wore the leotards and
That was all fine because I've never like totally cared. I think it was puberty that made me realize, ew, like I hate that like girls' clothes or whatever. I don't know. It's not obviously never a choice. It's just like all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'd rather wear this. And that's pretty much it.
Mm.
And then it can go from there, what you feel, what you want to identify as.
Right.
So your question was specifically what?
I just wondered what it was like for you. Was it a gradual thinking or was it just one day you were just like, what is this growing on me and I don't like it?
It was kind of both, honestly. I didn't really ever think about it until puberty, and I was like, oh man, I'm not here for this too much.
Mm.
Like, I guess what I'm trying to explain is like what I said about you figure out what you want based off of the things that make you not happy.
Because
Like,
you want to be, because you feel unhappy,
because you
want
want
to
to be
feel
happy.
better.
Yes.
Okay.
And so you figure out ways to do that. And for me, that was, I realized that I did care what I wore after a while, and I didn't know how. So I just kind of started wearing, I don't know. Apparently, this happens to like everyone who doesn't quite feel at home, whatever gender they were born as. You wear baggy stuff. And that just not in an effort to hide, but an effort to be comfortable, and that's the only thing that makes you comfy. I don't know what that
Just
is.
baggy clothes.
I don't know what that is. It's like,
I think it's all of the above.
yeah,
And that's
it's just
fine. That's good.
I don't know.
to have a
It's
sense of comfort in a difficult
yeah. I don't know. I would really like to know where
situation.
it all comes from. And obviously it's just different brain chemicals. Like you can answer it as that, it's just brain chemicals, but I would really like to know like the specifics, but no one really knows. I think the first thing everyone should say is it is no one's fault ever. It's never anyone's it's like never a fault of someone's upbringing. And even in an event where trauma can force you into something, if you think about it for a second, it wasn't the trauma that caused it because someone cisgender could experience the exact same trauma and not have that happen.
Right.
Meaning it was there all along.
Absolutely. Very good point.
McCall has always felt that way, and the trauma was the thing that made it burst forth.
Wow. Yeah, that's very
Yep.
So
true.
that the trauma is like a catalyst that just set it off to
Yeah,
go.
pretty
Huh?
much. Kind of like my dad with Tourette's, him falling out of a tree is what triggered it. But another
was-
kid can fall out of a tree and just
Right.
not have that happen. It was there. the
Perfect
whole time.
analogy. It was there
Yeah.
the whole time, and the event of falling triggered it
Yeah,
in his neurological system.
yeah, and it's all a really hard conversation, but in the end, you just kind of have to be like, I see you, I get you, I respect you for it. Let's go from here.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have a question about the baggy clothes.
Okay.
As a person who has been overweight a whole lot of this lifetime, that was always a place I would hide. And I know a lot of other women who have had body issues, and it doesn't have to be overweight. It can be any kind of body issues. Is that in the same category?
Absolutely.
Okay. I kind of heard you talking about indecision or not lack of clarity is probably better.
Yeah.
And
That's
that okay. But shame too.
yeah.
Question mark. I'm not trying to put that
Shame
on you.
because I'm speaking from like all the stories I've read, all of everything, because it is completely different for every single person, but you can find the similarities, and it's like the shame can come from looking at like one of your classmates in school or whatever. And I'm using like it's around middle school, high school that people start realizing I'm not quite happy with this, and then they start changing it. But the shame can come from looking at one of your classmates and being like, man, I wish I was just sometimes the word normal comes out, and that is pretty harmful to say, but like, man, I wish I could just be comfortable and that be the end of it.
Hmm.
But you'll never really quite know what that feels like until you find it. It's not just a given thing anymore. You know? Like, man, why do I have to be like this? Why can't it just be easy?
A route to figure it out,
Yeah,
for it to make sense,
it's crazy.
and even be able to talk about it, because
Yeah.
it's almost impossible to talk about, especially in a culture that's steeped in fundamentalism.
Right.
Is there a discussion at this point about all this LGBTQ conversation about athletics and who's going to be allowed to play and
That's
all these old fat stuffy
That's a good
right-wing white men
Yes,
talking about it?
I honestly think I absolutely think that whatever gender you identify as, those are the people you should go play with. Like it shouldn't matter. However, I understand people's arguments about when like female to male like maybe not having quite the edge that all the assigned male at birth dudes have. And on the converse, this is the one people worry about more in sports where the male to female kids do have more testosterone in their bodies, therefore probably will be stronger and play better.
Mhm.
However, like I get it when you get to like a certain point, right? But like Also, who cares? It's a game. It's called a game, right?
Well, when it teeters on professionalism, and the amount of money
Yeah,
and
but
expertise,
but
and
also a lot of trans people have already gone through and they just what if you don't tell anyone?
that's
Yeah, good
What if no
point.
one knows?
that's a good point. That's a very good
And then
point.
maybe you're just another one of them.
Yeah, that's a medical
It's a really hard,
ethicist's question
yeah.
and worthy of conversation for
I
sure.
really I feel
And
like I don't know quite enough because that really
I know
does
I don't.
that branches into like real science and stuff.
yeah, I saw a interview with two doctors in the last 24 hours saying that it didn't really matter.
Yeah,
But you were talking about money, Hope. I think primarily it's school athletics that red state legislatures are
Uh,
making regulations for, which is just what you said earlier about the fundamentalist toxins that are in our culture.
yeah. So
But if it's going to go there, it's going to go to professional sports too. There's already been, big controversies at the top of that, Olympics and everything.
yeah.
I'm kind of curious how young people who are affected by that feel emotionally. Is that off-putting? Do people
absolutely. Because
think they'd love to play, but they're not going to because it's such a mess? What?
yeah, because especially if like people are literally trying to not allow these kids to do anything, and it's like when you are when you are fully transitioned from female to male, you're a guy, you're a dude, that's it. But literally the government is trying to tell you no, you're not.
You have to go by
And
what your birth certificate says.
and you've been fighting your whole life to be something, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, you can't do this because we said so. It's like totally back. It's like the 5,000 steps back that you never wanted. But I don't know. I think it is getting better. The sports thing is a really hard question, but to me, the ones who will they're trying to make all the rules because of trying to keep it fair for when you actually get to the higher levels. And in my mind, anyone who's going to get to the higher levels is going to do it no matter what.
If you're talented and that driven to be a professional or Olympic athlete, nothing's going to stop you.
Exactly. It doesn't matter what's in your pants, man. You're going to do it.
Right.
And especially policing in schools, like, I think that's stupid because honestly, kids are playing sports in school because they have to. So why are you telling them not to? Like, honestly, to some of them, they're like, cool, I don't have to do a sport. Nice. You won't let me? Cool. I don't even want to. Like, whatever. I don't know. It's too nitpicky for me, and I think people really need to stay out of other people's business sometimes. But God, they sure can't, can they? Wow.
Throughout this whole conversation, I've picked up on an undertone of you feeling defensive for people, protective
Yeah,
of people in the LGBTQ community.
absolutely.
And I just want to ask you tell me about the energy behind that, wanting to protect.
Yeah, I mean, I've just because of my extreme empathy I was born with, I can watch as people like my close friends, like I can watch as like my friend who is male to female, she doesn't talk to her dad anymore all of a sudden, pretty much, unless she has to. And I don't know, through it all, you still just have to do your best for yourself. And it's like, I don't know why so many people take a personal affront to something that has nothing to do with them.
Like her father being offended, or his father being
Her.
he to she, sorry, right? Her father being offended by her making this choice for the betterment of her life.
Yeah.
If
How does
she's
that affect him at all?
right, why does he have to reject her? And I hear you angered about bad parenting.
I'm always angered about bad parenting, so I'll get excited about that one. I have counted one friend who has a good relationship with his parents, and he's also an only child. That might also have something to do with it. I don't know. I can't really explain that part. That's it. Everyone else has some sort of difficulty.
Because of their parents?
Yes. Whether they're questioning their gender or sexuality or not, whether they're just a straight white man, which I'm friends with quite a few of them, they all have issues with their parents. What is that? I don't know. I guess it's just part of life. I got really lucky. Thank you. We got very
Oh, I wish we had that on film. That's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, but I can, I'm not condoning her father's behavior, but I'll bet that he feels somewhere that what did I do? What did I do that caused this?
Yeah, there's fear.
Yeah.
Because parents sometimes think they have that power over their children.
Yeah.
So it becomes all about them.
Just because you made them doesn't mean you handpicked their personality and life path. That's not quite how it works.
Well, to be fair, I questioned it. There's a one day after, well, I guess we're just audience needs to know
No, yeah.
that Donnie had top surgery.
Yeah.
It'll be a year this May.
Our volume went away. I can hardly hear you guys.
Okay.
Oh, here. Is that better?
That might help a little.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Good.
No, I just said that it's important for our beloved audience to know that a year ago May, Donnie had top surgery.
Woo.
And when there was a moment when she was up and moving around, just gently kicking a soccer ball with her dad, she had her shirt off for the first time. I was looking from a distance, and when I looked at her, I just felt this pain right in the middle of my chest. My heart just ached, and I wasn't sure what that was about. I was grateful that you had this long awaited surgery. We were so grateful that it had finally happened for you, and you worked really hard to get there. And but yet my heart was hurting, and I realized that I was questioning, because I'm looking at these two huge scars on your chest. You had put your body through a major surgery, and all of a sudden I remembered being pregnant with you, and I was terrified for the first 6 months. Terrified. And I just wondered, and we ended up talking about it with a lot of clarity, a lot of healing, a lot of compassion. But I was questioning, was there something that happened in utero that caused her to question her being? Was I responsible for that, the pain and the confusion? Did I have a hand in any of that? And it took a while, but we finally talked about it. And I was the courage enough to bring it up and
Thank you for that.
find the right timing, because I didn't want to make it about me, but at the same time, you're one of the most important people in my life, or if not the most. And I wanted to have as much clarity and honesty in our relationship as possible.
Yeah. I guess, what exactly was my answer? I guess the first thing is that, like, it's never anyone's fault. There's never a fault at all. And I think, like, it's also, it's not, I guess you could say it's not something to be fixed or cured, It's just like,
oh, of course not.
How, like, no, yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's just I just know that it gave room for healing, for a sense of guilt that I had carried. And that pain in my heart was that guilt coming to the surface. And it was an opportunity to talk about it. And thankfully, there was enough trust established in our relationship that we could both be as honest as we knew how to be.
Yeah.
And since that top surgery, you have just been thriving.
Yeah. I always knew I was supposed to. I just had to get the timing right with everything.
Found the best doctor on the planet.
Right?
Dr. Higdon, Vanderbilt, amazing man.
Yes, it's amazing.
Anyway,
When the time was right for you, everything fell together.
Yeah.
But it's easy to see how those feelings that you expressed, Hope, could have turned in a very negative way as a parent
absolutely.
and been taken out on Lily.
If I had allowed that fear
Now, Donnie.
to roll over to its other side, it
Mhm.
could have been very much a painful projection,
Absolutely.
which I think is what that father that we're talking about, that father, there's so much unidentified fear.
Mhm.
It's easier for him to move away from it than to deal with it. And that's
Absolutely.
fortunate because his daughter, he's missing out on a lovely person that had the courage to do something.
And he's still alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things could still heal.
True.
We can set that intention.
There's always that possibility.
I was throwing pebbles in a creek yesterday, in a still part of a creek, watching the ripples go out, and that popped into my mind. So for the broken relationships and in the LGBTQ community between child and parent, let's throw that proverbial stone into the waters, that there be honesty and trust.
Yeah.
That can ripple out and touch those relationships.
Yeah.
Because that's where the change in this world will come from. It's not from a presidential administration. It's not from who gets vaccinated or doesn't. It's the healing of relationships. And
Well said.
yeah, that's what really matters.
Yeah.
And especially the relationship with ourselves.
Yeah.
Which is why I would think anyone in the mode of what do I do with what I've got, that finding that sense of self, that self-love that's a rough journey.
Yeah.
That's a brutal freaking journey, man.
It's crazy.
Particularly in this culture that doesn't give us any clues where to look for that.
Oh, you're not kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, we can look around and see, oh, you can be stronger, shapelier, thinner, more this, more that. You buy this product or do that thing or do the other thing or whatever, or buy these clothes,
Yeah.
And that will solve your problems. But
I think the biggest thing is still people still think that it's a choice, that the kid is a girl and is like, I feel like being a boy. Screw you guys. No,
It's
Not
it's
how-
not a blithe choice.
it's
that.
not a choice at all. It is not a choice at all. It's like having like a terrible infection in your arm and needing it amputated. And then choosing to cut it off and having people be like, "Oh, why would you do that though? God gave you that arm." I was gonna die if I didn't get rid of it. And you're saying stuff like that? That's pretty much
It's an analogy,
that's
man.
kind of the
That
best way
works.
to explain it. You don't really have a choice, because if you decide not to, the choice we do have is if we force it down or not.
Right.
And if you force it down, your mental health is going to decline until you can't even function anymore. And then what?
I've often wondered, what if heterosexuality was the thing that was illegal? How would I feel
Thank you for saying that.
if
'Cause
that were judged and criticized? And
I'm really glad you think
because I
that way.
can't, because I can't change that.
Exactly. See?
I can't,
Exactly.
exactly.
You can't change it, neither can anyone else. And I think that's where a lot of people, like my friend's dad, can kind of start feeling the way they feel, is they think that their kids just another phase. No, not quite. And another thing is this goes with it, but I have realized that a lot of people completely inadvertently, even without knowing, just you can tell through the way they use their language that they also do this with autism, which is very interesting, which is also something where I stand really firmly, and will defend till my last breath. Um, None of this is something that can be fixed. And a lot of people, like I said, accidentally or inadvertently speak about these things as if it were something to cure. And it's not at
It
all.
isn't.
It's totally not. It's something that just deserves understanding and a thumbs up and say, you do you. Have
Yeah.
a nice day. That's all it takes. It just takes a little support. And yeah, talking about autism and ADHD and stuff is a whole nother subject to get on, but none of this stuff can be or needs to be cured. You know? It needs to be
Understood.
understood and accepted, understood to the best of your ability. And I think first and foremost, accepted. Because we were talking about this the other day. Humans kind of, like the human brain, like you automatically make your assessment of someone, and then that's like that's it. And then what we were talking about yesterday was like humans will, like I said, do their first impression and it's pretty much right. But with animals, and we were talking about horses in our conversation, but with animals, you need to be prepared for pretty much a different like creature. Especially with horses, like you can go out to work with them, they can be completely different than they were the other day, and that's just how animals are. And I feel like you have to learn not to expect or judge them at all. Like, you can't expect anything. You can't expect them to be the exact same every single day. And obviously we can't do that with us either. But with animals especially, you have to approach them with just an open mind, no expectations, be ready to accept and handle anything they throw at you. And I feel like that's also where a lot of the judgment comes from, is like we look at someone, we should be like, oh, they should be doing this. We look at a trans person and be like, oh, they should look more like a dude if they're trying to be a dude. No. We need to, they are who they are. You're not going to look at your cat and say you should be more orange today. like, oh, you look great today. You cleaned your fur. Nice job.
You're more
Yeah. You just gotta, I'm not saying we need to treat each other more like animals, but I'm also saying we need to treat each other more like animals, like from the gentle perspective of just being like, oh, you're sleeping in the sun today? Good job. I'm really proud of you.
Can you imagine if we greeted each other the way your dog greets you when you walk through the door?
It's like, hey,
if we
how you
greeted each
doing?
other.
How was your day? Oh, you smell like someone else. I hate you for that, but it's okay because I love you.
I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you.
Like, exactly. But yeah, I don't know. I'm also not saying that we need to like baby each other at all. I'm just saying we need to come at each other with
compassion.
openness.
Compassion.
Be like, I see you. You're doing awesome.
If there's an energy of compassion, and
Yeah,
then there's the to me the part of the essence of compassion is a connection with self,
yeah,
and a longing to connect with another, whether there's understanding or not.
I love the word compassion. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
That's
that's beautifully put, Hope.
the more that you study, the more I realize that compassion's like one of the most important things, like ever, that we can give ourselves and others.
Oh,
like
God,
it's like a lifesaver, man.
it's transformative.
It is.
I
Can
would-
you talk more about it just a little?
Well, I would dare say that my my studies in nonviolent communication started one in learning how to listen, meaning quieting the voice in the head that's constantly thinking what it wants to say next, but listening with intent, with the intention to connect, listening without diagnosing, fixing, or judging. And after learning to listen, we learn to reflect, just to say back to the person what they said. That creates that clarity. And even if you're wrong, it still creates clarity. And I say all that to say that the third part of that, the third leg on that proverbial stool, the balance is compassion for whatever the conversation is about or happening in one's life. So I guess I say all that to say that my transformation catapulted when I learned self-compassion. Because if I could choose to be compassionate for myself, then there was a willingness to connect to the painful places, the places that I've resisted and judged and felt shame about, or felt guilty or regret. And once I began to approach those sore places with the energy of compassion, I could unfold within my own being. I could let down just a little bit more. I could approach a painful thought or memory with a little more understanding. And I got through things a lot quicker. And bringing that to every part of my life, my marriage, relationships with horses, and my clients or the owners of those horses. And,
I have a small question.
Yeah.
Donnie, you put a attention deficit and gender fluidity. Is that a valid?
Yeah, that's
Okay, in the same category, and yet I see attention deficit disorder as a result of anxiety, and it can be calmed. And the other category is a human identity. You see what I'm saying? That those are two separate things.
Yeah. Oh, they're definitely separate.
why
A
did
lot
you-
of the I definitely get what you're asking. That was my.
Did you categorize them just because it's a place where you felt protective of people in those circumstances?
That's also true. Yes. However,
Okay.
a lot of
I think that's why it was
those
put together.
by no really any reason, all of the online circles I am in and observe, a lot of those two things, from what I see, go hand in hand to me. Not for any reason, but just because a lot of the, like you said, Penny, that a lot of, like, more and more people have it. I'll meet a queer kid, and more often than not, they have something, like a
On the spectrum, you mean?
yeah,
Oh,
like
interesting.
ADHD, anxiety. I was actually talking to my friend, and they said, "What? Like you know people that don't have anxiety? I thought everyone had it." And I was like, "Oh wait, maybe." No, I don't think.
That's kind of how I feel about it. So yeah.
Yeah, everyone's definitely got a little something, is what I'm saying, and that's just kind of how it is. And I did lump it in, one, because I'm protective over both, and two, because of the point I was making of they aren't things to cure, they're things to accept and handle appropriately, But like I said, in the circles that I'm in, if I'm talking to a group of queer kids, 90% of them are going to have ADHD, maybe a little on the little autistic spectrum a little bit. Like me, I actually am a tiny bit.
Aspergery. If that's a word. It's not, but
so
you know
it
what
is,
I mean.
but they're actually kind of is recanting the right word?
Yeah.
That terminology, because it's dated now.
Really?
Because everyone is realizing that the spectrum is not so for visual things, the autistic spectrum is not a bar of less autistic to more autistic.
Mhm.
It's a freaking pie chart. And some people have this, and this, some have this, some have this.
Wow. Wow.
If you think about it like that, it really works, doesn't it? So I guess all I'm saying is just like, like I said, it's not stuff to be like fixed or cured or whatever. And I think the biggest way that I can explain that they kind of anchor, or the biggest example I should say, is Penny, we talked about this. We didn't talk about it on recording though. Because I identify as asexual, because I always have. I never understood why people had crushes. I never got any of that, and I still don't.
Excuse me.
There have been quite a few studies of people with in the pie chart. If you think about it, one of the little slices you can get is asexuality, and they've actually confirmed studies that I don't think the word symptom is quite the best word, but a symptom of autism can be asexuality. And I think it is technically incorrect to say that autism and ADHD and the LGBTQ community go hand in hand, but they overlap quite a bit. You know, like, I wouldn't say that, like, oh, because you're agender, you might have autism. No, that's definitely not it. It's just that the circles kind of overlap more than you'd think, I guess, is all I was really trying to say.
Like a Venn diagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, the autism ADHD circle overlaps with everything. I just, from my, and I don't know, because I don't know about, I haven't quite researched this. I'm just speaking from my perspective that I've noticed. And it's just that the circles seem to overlap quite a bit. That was a long-winded answer for something I could have said in that last sentence, but you know.
Well, you know, a lot of people are just now working it out. They're having a conversation like this with its moments of clarity and its moments of, wait, let me rephrase that to, oh my God, I can't believe I thought that. That's crazy kind of awareness.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all. This conversation is hopefully indicative of one's beginning to happen across the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
Which is lovely. Oh, I realized I didn't finish my sentence about the Asperger side of everything. The autistic community has kind of decided not to use that language anymore because it was, like I said, dated, because that was from when we believed that it was a bar of less to more.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, if the Asperger word name was used for people who are, quote, higher functioning, basically people who fit in better. Mm. But it's just kind of all mixed in now, you know? There's not really any more exclusion of, oh, you fit in society, so you're fine, but this nonverbal guy needs to stay over here. Like, not anymore. It's autistic? Sure. Yeah. Like, I got you, I support you. And that's where we stand with that now, which is really interesting. Asperger's is still a term, though, because it is technically the name for, not understanding, like, sarcasm and emotions.
Inability to read nonverbal communication.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, well said. Yeah. But that's a pretty, what's the word? I don't know what the word is, but that a lot of people have that slice of the pie, I guess I should say.
Okay. It's in the mix, for sure.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Are there charts out now illustrating the pie?
Yeah, I've seen quite a few, and it's never going to cover all of them, but it covers the big ones, and I can try to find one.
I'd love to see that. You know, when the bar illustration of the spectrum came out, so many people that I run into that talk about it seemed very relieved because they had titles and structure to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a little while before they switch over, although some people will embrace that right away because it covers so many of the finer points. And then on the ADHD, I see people walking around with it that
Absolutely.
are clearly heterosexual.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that's just a disease of our culture and our times.
Yeah. Undealt with trauma within a culture.
Yeah, not that it doesn't I was going to say require, not that compassion is not a great response. It is.
Yeah.
But I think that's underlying an awful lot of our drug prescriptions,
Mm.
just from that point of view. And I have a question. When you use the term queer, what does that cover?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Basically,
Okay, this is new. This
yeah.
is new. When I was learning these words, when I would hear them whispered by the adults, they were always derogatory, always secretive, and they only applied to men. I had no idea there were non-heterosexual women until, Jesus, I want to say it, till I was an adolescent.
All right, I hear you. Yeah, because
It's true.
we've definitely grown up in a completely different, all three of us, completely different perspectives of this.
Yeah, but I want to learn the language that is respectful and also accurate now.
Yeah. So it obviously was very derogatory, and it has been reclaimed as it's kind of the umbrella term. Anyone who, like, obviously everyone has their specific uh orientations and, whatever. Like, uh you can get really specific and say, um because your preference for, who you want to date can be different than, like, I'm trying to explain it the best I can, sorry. It can get really specific in that you could call me asexual and aromantic, meaning people have a preference of, like,
How intimately to relate to someone?
um I don't know, it's hard.
I think it's important to define what asexual means.
That means I do not experience any physical attraction to anybody.
And aromantic means?
Aromantic means I also don't experience any romantic attraction to anybody, because those are actually separate
Okay.
in human brains. So people could experience, I think, a pretty common one in the ace community, which is, this is where I think in the ace community is where it gets the most specific, because ace people will not have any physical attraction to anyone, but they will want to be in a relationship. So you can say hetero-romantic or homo-romantic, meaning if someone is a male, asexual, but they are homo-romantic, that means they would want a relationship with a man, but that doesn't mean that they want to be physical with them, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
So they will want a relationship just without all the gross stuff. You feel me? It's a lot to kind of talk about, and it really is only something that the community really knows about, or like needs to.
Well, it's also,
You know.
but I'm hearing Penny asking, help clarify so that we can begin to demystify.
Yeah, that's a really good word.
And because so L is lesbian.
Yep.
B is bisexual.
Yes.
G is gay.
Yes.
So that's men.
Mhm.
Okay. T is transsexual.
Mhm.
Q is queer.
Or transgender.
Oh, I'm sorry, transgender.
Q is queer.
Q is queer.
And you will also get sometimes in the thing IA plus.
And what is
I is intersex, which is the people who were literally born with both genitalia,
Okay.
any mix of that. And I think we talked about this a while ago. I don't remember when, but they a lot of people will find out that they are intersex without, like, they'll go to the doctor because their parents, basically a long time ago, now it's different. They will let the child grow with both and figure it out as they age. But a long time ago, your child would be born with both and they'd be like, all right, choose which one you want to raise them as. And they would do the appropriate surgery and that's it.
Wow.
And I saw a story of this girl who went to the doctor and she was like, I'm 17. Why don't I have my period? And he was like, you don't have a uterus, because her parents did not tell her. Really interesting, I know.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a whole thing. So we have intersex for them, and they are part of the queer community, because the queer community is just everyone who is not cisgender, hetero. You know,
And cisgender means,
you identify as the gender you were born as.
okay. Why is that term? Why cisgender? That's
I think it's just a suffix of Latin or something.
interesting.
Because
Spell
bi,
it, please. Is it SIS?
CIS.
CIS.
It's
Thank
a
you.
suffix or something. I don't know. I
So-
wish I knew more. And then A is asexually romantic, and then the plus is anything beyond that, because there is quite a bit. There's
Wow.
also another really important one is pansexual.
Okay. What does that mean?
That means you like everybody, agender, male, female, anything in between, questioning anything. That's your label.
Why do you
But
think
that is, Donnie, is that about attraction?
Yes.
When you say like everybody, you're attracted to everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
why do you think these labels are important?
That's a super good question. It kind of goes, well, for me, it's definitely different for everyone, but for my asexual experience, before I knew the word, I thought I was broken.
Ah, okay.
There's your answer.
There
you know,
go. There you go.
I thought I was just messed up, and then I realized, oh, there's other people like me. I don't have to feel like crap anymore. I'm good. I'm fine. And then I was able to be proud, which is why they call it pride.
Hmm.
It's the real thing that comes with it. Oh, that was something else. I just remembered I was going to say this. And it's not something you ever hear about. So you guys are getting the inside scoop of the queer community right now.
Privileged.
For some reason, it's not talked about, and I think it really should be. The kids who transition. So the terminology for not identifying with the gender you were born as, the negative feeling of all of that, like not identifying with how your body looks and feels based off of the gender you were born as. The negative feeling goes along with that is called dysphoria.
Right.
And that is dysphoria is the reason most of the time that someone will transition. That's what causes it, is wanting to no longer feel the crippling dysphoria that can sometimes come with, having a chest, or even having wide hips, or sometimes for female to male not being tall enough. And there are some things, or like for male to female having a lower voice, that will give you dysphoria if you do not feel like it matches. If your body doesn't match the gender you really are, it will cause that feeling. And there are, for like obviously the height thing, and sometimes like wider hips or whatever, sometimes there aren't things you can do about that. So you just kind of have to work from there for your mental health. However, a lot of things can be fixed through top or bottom surgery, or through taking the necessary hormones that you need. And what I was going to say is something that I feel like cisgender people will never get, is gender euphoria.
Divine.
Meaning, when someone finally feels like, for my friend Jay, he turned 18 and was finally able to have his top surgery. So he went from feeling dysphoria, feeling like crap, feeling like needed to wear baggy clothes, whatever, to all of a sudden walking around without a shirt on and literally feeling euphoria.
Oh, okay.
Like you're like, holy crap, finally.
Have you felt that way?
Yeah. That's what I got after my top surgery. Never, and I wish this was talked about more, but when a queer person, queer in the gender area, when you finally get to the point where you're like, man, this is where I have always wanted to be, it's literally euphoria, because that's the opposite of dysphoria. It's
Right.
You get gender euphoria. It's insane.
That's
it's
wonderful.
really, really, really cool. And that's the one little secret pearl of treasure that I think trans kids get versus just, cis kids.
Well, if I may say, as an observer to one who's been in a type of transition, that's fair.
Yeah.
To call it top surgery.
Yeah.
That you have definitely found an energy of contentedness.
Yes.
And a consistency in that.
Yeah. It's the best thing ever. You could
like
say.
A genuine. I'd hesitate to say the word happy because that feels so.
Yeah, because I was happy before.
Innocuous. But there's a sense of self-connection and understanding you're just so content.
Yeah, because I feel like I finally met up with who I wanted to be, or who I felt like I was inside. Just now that my outside is matching it.
Got it. A wholeness, a sense of wholeness.
Yeah, like something finally clicked into place. And you're like, there we go. Now I'm a real person.
Oh,
I don't know.
Wow.
This is a whole huge topic.
Unexpected topic, no less.
Yeah. Huge topic you could go on forever about. We definitely didn't even cover the half of it, but
what a great introduction. And I've got to second what Hope said about your energy, because there has been such a vast change and a deepening, and your articulation is just coming from such a different place.
I'm so grateful to hear
and bravo.
Oh, thank you.
I hope you're having a big celebration on your anniversary next month.
Oh yeah, it was the 21st, right? I need to do that.
We need to have a celebration. That would be amazing.
Kind of every time I hear you talk is a celebration, Donnie.
I feel like that too.
I love it. It's like every time we've talked a little bit about this before, but some other things that are really important to you too. And it's just like a flower opening so often and revealing more and more petals and pollen, and just it's a wonderful experience. And I'm honored to get to be present for some of this.
Thank you. Thank you both for being so open and accepting of all of this, because it is a huge thing that is very hard to explain when you're not in it,
That's the truth.
Gotta be.
I was blessed to like have just enough of all the experience to be able to explain it well, and I'm grateful for that. Hopefully explain it well. I try very hard. I've had a lot of time to learn how to explain it.
Help educate those willing to be educated.
Because the thing about it is it's you can get the whole explanation, but you won't fully understand unless you feel it yourself. It's the same thing with
true.
Maybe I shouldn't be linking them so much, but I think that is also the same with ADHD and autism and anxiety and everything, because like you can explain to someone how your like really intense anxiety affects you, and they'll still be like, okay, but why don't you just cheer up? Like
yeah,
like you can explain it, but you don't fully get it until you get it, that's like the thing. So thank you guys for listening, and thank you for asking questions, because that's never offensive, by the way. No matter how anyone responds, always ask someone anything. And it's always super awesome to ask someone their pronouns.
Very
Just
cool.
Really?
yeah, that's
Oh,
absolutely that.
that's so good to know.
Especially if you just a lot of people will just ask like your friend was it Zura?
Mhm.
Yeah, first time she met me, she asked me.
Yeah, that's true. That's right.
She just
sure
kind of
did.
asks everyone. I love that. Like even if
You
they
mean Xena?
was it Xena?
It was Xena.
I'm sorry, it was Xena.
Xena.
It's been a long time since I've seen any of them,
I know.
and I wish I could see them more, but
No,
that's how
they're
it
so
is.
wonderful.
My bad. But yeah, like just asking if they if anyone is queer and you ask them that, they will automatically be like, "You're awesome, like come here." Cuz cuz like hardly anyone asks that
Yeah, people are afraid
to
to.
people. Yeah, 'cause you're either afraid to offend or you're I don't know, afraid that your friends will make fun of you for being a little sensitive baby. Like I don't it can be any reason why someone won't ask, but just ask. It's awesome. It's a
Yeah,
great
like the situation I described when I said something about the dog responding well to this woman. Had I had this information, regardless of where we were, I could have handled it very differently and said, what pronouns would you like me to use?
yeah.
And
It's
that's cool. I
Perfect.
can learn that.
Yeah, me too.
yeah.
Me too.
You guys are awesome.
I
It's
have two questions.
yes, yes, yes.
Well, no, I have two questions out of 30,000 questions.
Enough.
But one is, are a lot of people in this community seeking therapeutic help?
Definitely not enough, but yes.
Are
Because
there really skilled therapists that are helpful?
I've heard of quite a few, yes. There can always be more because by God, we always need more therapists, good ones. We always need more good therapists. But yes, I've heard of a lot of a lot of I've heard like 95% success stories from queer kids who go to a therapist and their therapist is pretty much always awesome, which is really nice. Uh and yeah, definitely because honestly to me, anyone who is alive could benefit from therapy. Uh
Oh, I'm with you.
yeah, but especially in the queer community just because it's a lot more mental weight on you than some other people, you know? So
So, is success in a therapeutic relationship when the patient becomes comfortable with who they are? Is that the definition?
uh I think it's just becomes at least just a little bit more mentally healthy and able to handle everything life throws at them because for some people for a lot of people especially with gender identity it is just a really long ongoing process to be comfortable with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't call that the success because it is a long process. I think the success is, like I said, just being better at handling stuff, handling life and handling your own thoughts and yourself. I think that's even just one session could be a success, you know? Uh
So, so it's like whatever's successful in any kind of therapy,
yeah.
not just specifically in this group.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking so many questions. This is awesome.
I have another question that might go more to you than the community in general so far, but that is, are you aware of ways in which nature also has these vast, how would you term it, these multiple expressions of gender? Is that right?
Yeah.
Or
University.
identity? Do you
Uh,
see that in nature?
do we see other gender identities in nature?
Well, yeah. Do you see yourselves reflected in nature?
Absolutely, yeah.
There.
That is
I made that a real sentence that somebody could hear.
that was a very good question.
How
Yeah,
how do you
absolutely.
see yourself mirrored in nature, reflected in nature? That's a beautiful question.
Yeah, that is a beautiful question. I mean, you can see it anywhere. I mean, uh, let me think of where to start, because uh, I mean, for me, the I mean, for me specifically, this is not a broad answer at all. This is just me. I see myself in nature because there's like no rules. There's no restrictions out there. If you go outside, you're just free. You're you. That's it. Everyone accepts you. Everyone meaning nature. Nature is like never it'll never doubt you, you know.
There's no rejection there.
Yeah. Um but you can also see it mirrored in like uh you can literally like physically compare, like remember how I was talking about intersex people who have both?
Mhm.
A lot of plants have both, don't they?
Mhm.
And that's just normal, perfect, how they're designed to be.
Yeah.
Boom. Easy.
Mm.
That's who you are. Got it. Science might study you a little bit, but you're going to be revered as pretty cool, you know? Like and then there's literally the term asexual. It does mean something a little different in science, but like it's still this like the same, you know, word. It's literally like mirrored. Um and this is something not a lot of people talk about, but a lot of wildlife photographers do witness homosexuality in a lot of species of animals. We just don't talk about it, but
Right
like
on. That's true. That's very true.
yeah, it's just whoever. Specifically in lions, I've heard.
Really?
Lions will like they're two female partners like all the time. Like they'll be the ones running everything. I don't know.
That's cool.
I've heard penguins too go on that list.
Yes. Yes, penguins. Absolutely. I've heard a lot about that. They don't care.
That's
They
cool.
just yeah. I don't know.
And it's another message that is perfectly normal,
Yeah.
if we want to use that word.
Yeah. I'm okay with using that word. I think some people could find it, I don't know, not quite the right word, because that's saying that being queer is abnormal.
Is abnormal, yeah.
Judgment behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you want to come up with a different word for that, I'm all for it. I can learn that too.
Well, the way you said it was perfect. Like just looking
Now, how about natural?
yeah. That's
Is that better?
natural is a really good
Excellent,
really
Penny.
good word.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's natural. Yes.
Whatever you
that
are, you're
works.
natural. That feels good.
Yeah, that does feel good.
Yeah, it has less weight. Normal is normal could be retired.
Yeah. It's judgy.
A word emeritus. We'll use it when we need to. A guest speaker. Donnie, thank you for sharing all this. This is so great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. I
Well-
know we could have gone on forever, but
We will. There will be more.
Unexpected.
I'll bet I know two people that are going to come back with more questions. And I want to acknowledge and also appreciate your courage in speaking so freely.
thank you. I guess it does take a little courage to talk about it, just because I don't know, it opens up so much, but it's always worth it. It's always worth talking about. Absolutely.
Yeah. And to show up for yourself with that sense of deep connection and awareness that who you are is a natural way of being. you know,
Yeah.
And that you don't need anyone's approval or understanding to live the unique life that you've carved out to live. There is no limit to how we can heal ourselves and our world. Consider the quantum possibilities. We thank you for listening.